I don't think people really understand how much effort goes into these videos, because I already recorded all of this video, but the overhead shot, my camera ran out of batteries in the middle and totally corrupted the two most important of the video files. And then the other shot didn't look good. It wasn't up to the quality of standards that I want for my videos, so I'm completely re-recording it. The entire thing. So before you start to comment like, this guy didn't put any effort into this looks horrible, realize that we're doing the best that we can. And now that that little rant is over, let's talk about what's in my camera bag in 2020. Let's start with the camera that I have. Now, I exclusively, for the past almost 2 years, have been using the Canon M50, but at the beginning of this year, a friend of mine bought me a Panasonic GH5. And so my kit has changed a little bit. I no longer have one main camera, I have two. Because even though I use the GH5 a lot, it's probably only about 50% of my content is filmed on the GH5. I am still using the M50 for at least 50% of my videos. That's what I'm shooting on right now, as you see GH5 in the background. That's not to say the M50 is better than the GH5, they just have different features. I mean, the GH5 has 4K at 60 frames per second, 1080p up to 180 frames a second, buttons and dials galore, customization until the sun goes down. The M50 is small, and it has Canon's legendary dual pixel autofocus. And so when I'm just trying to do a run and gun type vlog, or a video like this where I'm not actually sure how much I'm going to be moving in and out of frame, I like to have something with autofocus. But the M50 is not going to touch the GH5 when it comes to image quality and just how much you can do with it. Now, with both of these cameras, I've been using primarily the kit lens. Now, with the GH5, that's because it's the only lens that I have, and I don't have an adapter yet to adapt my EF lenses. But with the M50, the kit lens is just so small and compact, yet it's stabilized. It's not incredibly sharp, but it's sharp enough. I mean, most of my videos with the M50 are done using that kit lens. Now, for both of these lenses, I have ND filters. Now, an ND filter is something that will help take your video from looking sort of cell phone-ish with a super deep depth of field to being able to, in daylight, lower your exposure and open your aperture wide enough that you can get shallow depth of field to really take advantage of these large APS-C and Micro Four Thirds sensors. Now, of course, whenever you're buying ND filters, keep in mind that the front of the ND filter is generally a larger diameter than the back, and so I also bought caps for the ends of my ND filters. Another note is that the filters that I have, my M50 filter is about $13, and the GH5 filter is about $20. So if you don't have a lot of money to spend on a good Tiffin or Polo Pro ND filter, go ahead, buy a cheap one, it'll hold you over. Now, as I already said, when I'm using the GH5, I only use the 12-60 kit lens. But when I'm carrying around the M50, I actually carry around 3 other lenses. The 22mm EFM lens, the EF50mm f1.8, otherwise known as the Nifty 50, and then I also carry around a Tamron Adaptol 28mm f2.5, and I adapted that over from Nikon mount to EF mount, and then I carry both the speed booster and the pass-through adapter, so I can effectively have 4 different focal lengths out of those 2 lenses. Now, as we all know, audio is very important. If you don't have good audio, you're not gonna be able to make a very good video, and so microphones are a must. And I used a different microphone for my GH5 than I do for my M50, and that is because the M50 preamps are weaker than the GH5 preamps. The GH5 preamps are much louder, and therefore the mic that I normally use with my M50 ends up being too loud and always peaks out the GH5 preamps. And so I have been using the Rode Video Micro when I'm filming with my GH5, and then using the Movo VXR10 when I'm filming with my M50. Now, if you look at my VXR10, you'll notice that it doesn't have the standard mount, and that is because I accidentally broke the mount. And so I put it on the shock mount to my Asden SMX10. Now, another thing that I carry around, and this is like for just a rare occasions thing, is the GoPro. Now mine's a Hero 3 White, and I don't actually use it often, but I do use it enough to make it worth carrying around with me. And really I just use it if I need a really wide shot or a unique shot. If you look at my video, How to Not Make Boring Videos, I actually threw the GoPro off of a third story of a house, and it landed in the sand, and then stitched that between my M50 footage so I could have that unique shot flying off of that house. Another thing that I'm always taking with me is a little mini LED light. Now, this looks a lot like the Aperture M9, might be a knockoff, but it has 16 LEDs instead of 9 LEDs. It's not amazingly bright, but it is bright enough that I've installed cabinets with it before. And I am able to use it to bounce off of a wall and light a scene using the kit lens. So if you have a low light scenario, or you just need to add like a pop of color or a pop of light into your scene, using this light allows you to do that. And it comes with both a blue and an orange filter so that you can match it to your environment, because this is not an RGB light. Now you probably saw this coming, but one thing that I always carry around with me is the GorillaPod. And I really have mixed feelings about the GorillaPod, because this is like my third or fourth GorillaPod, and it is already breaking. Like within the first couple of days, some of the sockets started breaking. I'm thinking about possibly getting a 3K Pro since that has the metal ones, but I may just end up getting a switch pod. And then the last thing that I have is a little pouch on the outside of my camera bag, and this is where I store my extra batteries for the M50. I always carry 4 batteries with me just because the M50 battery life isn't good. With the GH5, I generally throw one in there, but I've never gone through an entire GH5 battery in one video. So, now if you're wondering why I didn't mention my camera bag yet, that's because the camera bag that I have only really works with my M50. When I'm using the GH5, it's really too small. And so if you have just the M50, I would highly recommend the Lowepro Protactic 250AW, but I think it's discontinued. I'm not sure. They might have come out with a second version. But for the GH5, that's definitely not the best bag to get, and do your research, find a good bag. I can't really recommend one right now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you all in the next video. Can you make me a yakambiri? What do you guys think of this setup? Good? Bad? Let me know.